Hi, my name is Chucky Currie, martial arts world champion, forms, fighting, and weapons. Black Belt Hall of Fame, Masters Hall of Fame. But I consider myself an artist. I started off in Chicago as a little kid. I remember running up and down the stairs and learning how to practice Tai Chi and getting into karate and Kung Fu and watching Bruce Lee as Kato. I knew that martial arts was something I wanted to do. But I was also an artist. I always liked photography and I always liked pictures and drawing and just being creative. And to me, in order for you to be successful, you got to be active. You got to be persistent. It's like you got this blank drawing paper and you had to get that pen and you had to create. You have to write, you have to draw, you have to make a way out of no way. You could see other artists and learn from them, but you don't have to be them. You could be yourself and be successful. To me, once I started competing in tournaments and fighting, I learned the difference between making something out of nothing. If you want to get that point, you got to cross that line. You got to go for it to get it. So that's what I did. I became a champion as a junior boy, and then I won my first world championship when I was 16 years old at the World Taekwondo Championships in Berkeley, California. After that, I won three first place trophies at one of my first tournaments as well. It was in foreign fighting and what's called one-step sparring. And I always used to practice martial arts with music when I was at home just because I thought it was cool. I just love music anyway. I used to win dance competitions. And as a matter of fact, one of my first martial arts performances was to the song Kung Fu Fighting. We were in an audition for a little, like a camp. We were at Camp Bruckner Far in Chicago. And me and my brother and about five of our friends got together and we all put together this skit. We went against other people who weren't doing martial arts. And we won silver dollars. And I guess that's what started my career as a professional martial artist. I started getting paid to do martial arts performances at like the age of 11 years old. And so time went on, and next thing I found myself touring with the West Coast demonstration team led by Ernie Reyes. I was the only member on the team that wasn't his student. He asked me to be a member because of my creativity with music and my influence with music. I was able to like say, you should use this song, you should use that song won't work. So I brought a lot of that into the force of performances. I became the number one martial arts performer in the United States. Back then I used to use songs by Michael Jackson, Prince, maybe Stevie B, just whatever was popping with me. And I used the styles of hard, soft, like Kung Fu, karate, gymnastics, and music. I had my own way. My style was called Chucky Currie. As time went by, I just kept winning more and more tournaments. And next thing I really got into filming, I got into movies. I was taking drama in high school. I was a straight A student. So I combined my arts and my drama with my movements. Next thing I got into movies, and I thought that was pretty interesting. I like making my own movies. I made Enter the Tiger when I was I think I was 17 years old. I was in high school. My friend Scott Coker, who now owns Bellator Fights, I had him star in my first movie. The movie was really successful. I mean, we had a line that was all around the cafeteria. I think mainly that happened because Scott actually kicked the guy in the head. So everybody couldn't wait to see what happened, how did Scott kick this guy, and it was real. But later on, it was so sad because somebody stole the film. So after that, I kind of froze. I was like, I don't want to be making movies and people just taking my movies. Because I had another little team I got together and I was choreographing all of these fight scenes and making these really cool movies. My movie camera got stolen, my car got stolen, and it was very frustrating. So I backed off and just got more into my kicking and punching and touring and doing shows and stuff. But then later on, I got lucky. One of my friends used to own Inside Kung Fu magazine. So he did an article on me in Inside Kung Fu magazine. Then I came out, of course, in Inside Karate and Official Karate and Black Belt magazine. And things just went rolling, almost like on a snowball effect. Later on, I ended up meeting Prince, and Prince was very inspirational to me because Prince was a man who knew where he was going, even though it was hard. At that time, first time I met him, I think he had like about maybe 15 or 20 people in the audience. And he let me know that he practiced martial arts and he was really interested in martial arts until the point came he was about to get a black belt. And he found out the instructor was trying to make money off of him and, trying to publicize his school off of Prince's name. And Prince really wasn't into people using his art for themselves, for their gain. So the next thing you know, Prince showed me his jump kicks. A whole bunch of girls come running at Prince. Prince had a lot of power. He's like, stop! Get in line! And they got in line like a group of soldiers. Didn't nobody say nothing. They got in line and stayed quiet, and me and Prince kept on talking. He asked me if I wanted to go on tour. I was a little afraid of Prince, though, because I know Prince was wild, and I know I was wild, and both of us being wild might have been a little too wild. I also met Morris Day in the time, and it was just all really good. And as time went on, I got better and better, in my craft. Chuck Norris ended up naming me the new Bruce Lee when I was like about 19 years old. I got to meet Brandon Lee and Shannon Lee. And as a kid, like once again, I met Bruce, but it was very temporary. I was only like 12, so I didn't really realize how powerful he was that much. I just remembered the Bruce Lee on the screen and then the Bruce Lee in real life. It was almost like two different people. In real life, he was just calm and cool. He wasn't kicking and punching and breaking no boards or nothing. He was just sitting there signing autographs, and he was really peaceful. And later on, I met Michael Jackson, and then I met Richard Pryor, which really made a difference in my life because Richard told me, he goes, Chucky, I could make you a millionaire right now, but it could kill you because you get 1 million friends, 1 million enemies. The world could be very cold. So you need to really know what you want to do because once you do that, you ain't going to never really have no freedom. And I was like, well, I'm not doing it for the people. I'm doing it for my heart. And he's like, well, I want you to find out how people are because they could be really vicious. So I stepped back and got more into my kicks and punches and doing more shows. I ran into Jim Kelly, who had been a friend of mine at an earlier age. Jim Kelly from Enter the Tiger, or actually from Enter the Dragon. You got to be strong and you got to know how to go for it. Sometimes you got to reach out. Like when I used to fight the tournament, the only way you're going to get the point is if you cross the line, if you take that chance, but you got to train hard before you get in that ring. Otherwise, you'll just be somebody just landing in the crowd, just get kicked right out of the ring. So I was on the circuit for totally like 25 years. Skip, jump, fast forward. Right now, I'm 56 years old. I could say now that I've been in the martial arts for over 50 years. Because I started when I was 6 years old. I mean, I'm a young man, but time waits for no one. So you got to know what you want to do. And I met Jackie Chan, got to work with him in Rush Hour 2. That was really, really cool being on the set with him and Chris Tucker and meeting director Brett Ratner and just being a part of it. Just being a part of the team was great. But at the same time, I still knew that I didn't want to just be somebody walking around in the background carrying a bag, so to speak. I wanted to do my own thing. I knew I had more talent than just being, somebody creeping past with a basket. That just wasn't me. And I ended up meeting Brad Pitt because of that. I would walk around on the set, go backstage, upstage, around stage. Next thing I ran into Brad. So we got to talking. I showed him a couple of karate moves. He showed me a couple of little moves that he liked because I guess he had did some moves in Fight Club. And he was telling me he had got all into the chuckles and stuff. And then he told me, he said, Chucky, you need to get into the union because that's the only way you're going to really make it to be able to talk on film is to join the union. Otherwise, you'll just be the background. And I was like, I don't want to just be the background, man. Ain't no way. Why should I? I could do that at home. So I ended up getting into the union. I think one of the reasons that helped me get into the union is with Brad telling me, where there's a will, there's a way. Because I was like, it's $3,500 to get into that union. And he said, yeah, you could do it. I said, $3,500. He goes, you can't do it. So I went back home and I ended up finding the guy in town that was like, ended up being the richest guy in town. He owned a cemetery. They say people were dying to give him business. So, when you be seeing people living and dying in your lifetime, that gives you some information that you better do what you got to do now. You can't be waiting for tomorrow because tomorrow ain't promised. You got a chance. You got to go for it. Whether you writing, typing on the computer, you got to stay busy. You got to stay focused and do your thing. Don't do their thing. Do your thing. Do what you want to do. So don't let nobody never tell you what you can't do. I was telling people I want to meet Will Smith, and they're like, oh, that's going to be really hard to do. That's hard. But you know what? I met Will Smith, and Will Smith met me. I think you got to believe in yourself, know who you are and what you're doing. Will was cool. It was quick. I mean, we didn't get to say too much because I was heading one direction, and he was heading the other. Sometimes that's just how life goes. Just like another thing, when I ended up meeting Bernie Mac on the set of Ocean's 11, and George Clooney, and it's been really, really cool. But I like making my own little short movie, Enter the Tiger. It wasn't no gigantic Hollywood production, but it was very successful. You know, we ended up getting picked up by Time Warner Cable, and they showed it in New York City, and we ended up getting over 20 million viewers. I mean, that's coming from nothing. So I'm really appreciative to everybody who worked with us, like Philip Safarik, my brother Reggie Currie, Giovanni Tatiliga, and all of the extras that was involved. I think it was just really cool. And I'm looking forward to making a full feature film, but in the same time, I'm not going to wait for Hollywood to roll out a red carpet. Sometimes you got to walk on the dirt, even till it hurt, but you got to do what you got to do. When Hollywood calls, Hollywood calls. But right now, time calls, and time waits for no one. So I'm glad that right now we're sitting in here and we're making something. We're creating something. We're conversating. We're giving you a chance to pick up what you want to do. You know, maybe you might want to be a drummer. Maybe you might want to be a singer. Maybe you might just want to be a teacher. Whatever you want to do, focus on it now. Write it down and believe in yourself and go for it. And don't let nobody or nothing stop you. You could do it. Put your mind to it. Your movements, your technique, speed, focus. Sometimes people want to help you, and sometimes people want to hurt you. But it's all about what you want to do. You don't let them stop you. Like Michael Jackson told me, he said, you got what it takes to be a megastar. Just don't let nothing or nobody stop you. And I think that's really positive. Even though he's passed on, he left something behind. And like, in case I don't wake up tomorrow, at least I left this extra. I reached out that extra mile, you know. But that comes from taking a chance. But see, first of all, martial arts is mental, physical, and spiritual. It's not just physical. It's not just running around kicking and punching. And it's not just running around, you know, doing somersaults up in the air, flipping. That's not real. I mean, for movies, that's cool, but I don't want my movies to be like that. I want my movies to be realistic, just like my fights are. Whether they're on the street or in the tournament, that's the real deal. You know, just like Holyfield. Or what they were talking about, like somebody asked me about Michael Tyson, you know, those gigantic muscles. Yeah, Michael ain't nothing to play with. And you know what, though? I ain't nothing to play with either. That means, like, you know, if you get a tiger, 2 tigers in the cage, that's how it's going to be if ever we have to throw down. So, you know, it's going to be blood everywhere. But if you could avoid a fight, avoid it. Avoid all unnecessary confrontations. But if you ain't got no way out, you got to make a way out. Okay? Success is what you put into it. If you only put in 50%, you only get out 50%. You put in 150, you get out 150. But inch by inch is a cinch. By the yard is hard, but you got to go for it to get it, buddy. You got to go for it to get it. So keep that in mind as you struggle towards your success. Don't let nothing stop you, and always do your best. Thank you. Chucky Currie, World Martial Arts Champion. Forms, fighting, and weapons. Artist, photographer, filmmaker, furious fighter.